May 4th, 2014, Honor Flight Northern Colorado assembled at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Loveland, Colorado for the send-off of their flight to Washington, D.C. The honorees on this flight would include veterans from World War II, the Korean War, Purple Heart recipients from any conflict, and, for the first time, Vietnam War veterans.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great trip.
Oh, I think we will.
Hey, you know that I good. How are you? Good to see you again. Good to see you.
The weather was beautiful as the Patriot Guard lined the walkways with flags, and the veterans and guardians checked in and hooked up for their two-day excursion. Marine Corps. And
Yeah.
where did you serve at?
In the Pacific,
Any?
I was in a Corsair Squadron, F4U4 Corsair Squadron aboard carrier. We trained pilots. We had a little action, but not much, and mostly we trained pilots. I was one of the lucky ones.
What years did you serve?
43 to 46.
You were in for pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah,
weren't you?
yeah.
Yeah. You're obviously World War II veteran.
Yeah,
Where did you serve at?
I was in occupation duty right at the end of World War II in South Korea. We only had 70,000 troops over there. The Russians weren't done fighting yet. They were out busy stealing islands from the Japanese. Well, I was on the GI Railroad. We had a train wreck. And a bunch of GIs on both trains, and one train piled right over the top of the other one. And just decapitated people. And it was terrible wounds. And I was in the railroad station there working. I was a mechanic. And I took a whole bunch of stuff with me to go up to see if we could do to help. I had a generator. And I took a generator and a jerry can of gasoline and some oil and a few hand tools. And I got up there and the surgeons were working with candles and flashlights. Every couple hours or so, I'd pour a little oil in it. I didn't, and it quit.
I've got my
And
alarms all set.
I'm out there with a flashlight, and I pulled the carburetor off. Out there, and
Oh man.
this is by the hand of God it had to be.
That's Guam right there. And we're just patrolling there. This is a Corsair taken off of our ship. And this is our planes just set up there. I think that's straight wind is an F6F, I'm not sure. This is D2 day in Germany. That's when the war was coming to an end in Germany. That's a plane on fire there. One coming in right behind it. Japanese plane trying to kamikaze us. You know what that streamer means?
No, I don't.
It means that we were out to sea without touching soil for a year.
That's interesting.
See, there's Corregidor right there. That was a Kaiser Coffin. There's only 11 of those ships made. Eleanor Roosevelt champagned every one of them. See this plane here? This was our gun tub here. He was trying to drop down on us, commit suicide, and in the meantime wrecked the ship. And every one of these, you see the smoke like that, and it's one that we shot down. This was a plane that was landing on board ship, and he was coming too fast, and he didn't slow it up in time by the signal that he got. When he landed, the fellow pulled it in two, and the wing hit the young man that was in an asbestos suit. That was his job every time a plane landed, to see if the pilot needed any help. It threw him over the side with that heavy asbestos suit on. He dropped to the bottom and never come up. Somewhere on one of these There's 2 stripes of 8 each of flags that showed the planes of the Japanese that our squadron up in the air shot down. It was enlisted when I was 17, but they wouldn't take me because of age. And then I went in when I was 18. I was mostly around Guam and Rota and Tinian and Saipan. You see, Guam, Saipan, and Tinian and Rota they were all grouped together. There was a lady over in Rota. She stood on a rock every morning and give signals to the pilots. And Rota only had probably 10 people on it. And she was in a red dress, and she'd signals up to the pilots. I was in the air department, and I kept the log for the pilots.
Larry, yes. I got to pest you long enough just to get your names, and I'll leave you alone. It sure is. Air Force.
So you served in Europe,
Yeah,
in the Army, or?
Army, yeah. Occupation. I was just a kid. Hell, he said, "What do you remember about Pearl Harbor?" I said, "I went to a movie because I was 15 years old."
I was going to say 14 or 15, yeah.
Yeah, I just turned 15 on the day before. And they were talking about the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Where the hell's Pearl Harbor? Hey, you got my hat.
Special delivery.
Oh,
just
thank
for
you. Oh, thank you. Okay,
Now you're officially World War II veteran.
Yes.
now I'm
there you
official.
go. All right, thank you for your service again. Appreciate
Went
it.
in 54 and I got out in 84. I did 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
What branch?
Air Force.
Air Force.
Yeah.
You served during the Vietnam War too, then?
Well, I was in during Vietnam. I did not go. I was an administrator, ran the office, first sergeant, admin officer, several organizations. I ran the base housing office up at Rapid City for a year and a half. I had a brother in Thailand and one in Vietnam, but I did not. I didn't get there.
Everybody contributes to the effort.
Well, that's how I felt.
That's how we feel here right now.
Yeah. I had a good career. Never had a bad boss. Never had a bad assignment. I got to Korea, but I was about 20-some years later. I did a tour over there in 79 and 80. I did a year in Osan.
Welcome to the Honor Flight Northern Colorado send-off for the 12th Honor Flight. With this flight, we will have taken close to 1,600 veterans from World War II, the Korean War, the war in Vietnam, plus Purple Heart recipients from both Iraq and Afghanistan, back to see the memorials built in their honor. Of course, the reason that we are all here is to thank you veterans for all that you have done. And I'd like to just take a minute and have all veterans stand or raise their hands, and let's give them our acknowledgement of our appreciation. Thank you so much. I would also like to know if there are any active duty personnel here. If you are, please stand up and raise your hand. Truly, we would not be the land of the free if we were not the home of the brave.
great day. I tell you what, that parking lot's about as full as I have ever seen it. You're in for quite a treat this morning as you head off to Washington, D.C. to visit the monuments and see the incredible sacred treasures that you have fought, put your lives on the line for, and sacrificed for. You know, remember that very famous Saturday Evening Post front page that had Rosie the Riveter on it? Rosie the Riveter is 70 years old last year. And as we send our heroes to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments, to see those great memorials in tribute to the work that they did, we know that it wasn't just men and women who served in the military in uniforms that preserve, fight for, and stand up for our freedoms. And so as we send everybody off this morning, as we say goodbye for a quick 2-day visit to Washington, D.C., we remember everyone who is behind our men and women in uniform today, and behind the men and women in uniform who are going as heroes on this trip as well. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the incredible sacrifices that all of you have given this great nation. So God bless you, thank you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
We're trying to sneak on in the baggage. Enjoy your trip. Okay. Big guys. Right.
You have a wonderful trip. Have a lot of fun.
As we prepared for our bus trip to Denver International Airport, over 120 Patriot Guard riders pulled out in front on their bikes, accompanied by several Larimer County Sheriff vehicles. From Loveland to Denver, the highway and overpasses were lined with emergency responders and well-wishers, waving and saluting as the buses passed by. Up and down the hills you could see the over 1 mile long caravan. The arrival at Signature Air Terminal at DIA was an event in itself as the veterans made their way through the gauntlet of handshakes and greetings from military personnel from Buckley Field and other well-wishers. After a short word from Colorado Adjutant General Edwards, the plane was boarded for the 3-hour flight to Baltimore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So give the Navy Information Operations Command a big hand. And again, we have General Edwards, who's the AG of Colorado, and Colonel Johnson's here is with him.
It really is an honor to get a chance to at least shake your hand and say thank you. We all appreciate that because we stand on your shoulders, those of us that wear the uniform today. So again, thank you all for your service. Hope it's a wonderful trip, and if I get the chance, I'll try to be back out here tomorrow night to say welcome home again. So thank you all. Take care.
The arrival at the Baltimore-Washington International Airport was a mere continuation of the day's events as the veterans deplaned to find another line of cheers and hands to shake. Members of the CSU East Coast alumni were among the greeters. Even passengers awaiting flights in the terminal got involved with the celebration as they realized who the new arrivals were. After settling into their rooms at the BWI Hilton Hotel, the veterans gathered for a banquet complete with a military honor guard and a keynote address from General McInerney. Breakfast at 0600 came early the next morning for these Mountain Time Zone residents. As they ate and got their fill of coffee, the buses lined up in front of the hotel for the 0830 trip into Washington, D.C. The ride to Washington featured a video history of the birth and construction of the belated World War II Memorial, which would be the first stop on the day's busy agenda. The atmosphere was festive as the veterans stepped off the bus at the World War II Memorial. They were greeted by other visitors to the site and a group of homeschoolers that would accompany them throughout the day. The World War II Memorial is a beautifully designed tribute to the veterans who fought in the conflict. The memorial lies at the end of the reflection pool between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. Entering from 17th Street, the walkway is lined with 24 relief panels depicting scenes from both the Pacific and the Atlantic fronts, as well as panels depicting scenes from the home front. 2 granite pavilions, one representing the Atlantic Theater and one the Pacific, house massive eagle sculptures. On the west end is a wall of 4,000 stars, each representing 100 Americans that were lost in the conflict. In the center of the memorial is a large pool with 2 large and several small fountains. The pool is surrounded by 56 columns adorned with bronze, oak, and wheat wreaths, each representing the contribution of the individual states and territories. Joining the pillars is a bronze sculpted rope that symbolizes the joining together of a nation. The next stop on the tour was the Air Force Memorial. The spacious grounds overlooking the Pentagon and Arlington Cemetery made the perfect setting for the delivered lunch. The memorial itself is magnificent as 3 pillars shoot upwards to the sky depicting flight. A clear etched panel depicts the famous missing man formation, while walls at each end remind us of the character, integrity, and sacrifice of those who have served in the air. The next stop on the day's agenda was the Korean War Veterans Memorial. The entry to the memorial is almost eerie as you walk beside a field of sculpted soldiers on patrol. Along the right side is a holographic wall leading to another wall jutting out from a beautiful pool that reminds us that freedom is not free. The Vietnam War Veterans Memorial lies just across the compound from the Korean Memorial, with the Lincoln Memorial between them. The atmosphere is solemn as veterans remember the fallen as they read the names etched into the panels. Some of our group found names of family members, friends, and comrades who never returned home. The last stop of the day was the Iwo Jima Memorial, which commemorates the U.S. Marines planting the American flag on Mount Suribachi. The veterans all came together here for a group photo memory of their honor flight experience. Despite a tiring day, the veterans were greeted with more celebration as they arrived at BWI for the return flight. Bagpipes, drums, and a very dominant kiss from a U.S. Air employee sent the veterans off in grand style. The flight home afforded the honorees no rest either, as the plane was festive with chatter and picture-taking. Each veteran received their mail call, personal letters written by local Northern Colorado elementary students. Back at DIA, there were welcome home greetings and snacks as the veterans deplaned and waited to board the buses back to Loveland.
Bless their bones. 3 years they lived in freedom, twice in Africa.
As the buses neared Loveland, they were once again joined by an escort from the Larimer County Sheriff's Department. They arrived at the Embassy Suite Hotel with flashing lights to cheering friends and family members. Each veteran was given a quilt and a picture book of the memorials as the event came to a close. Honor Flight Northern Colorado executes 2 of these trips per year to honor our military veterans who have so selflessly served to protect our freedom. We wish to thank all who have so generously given their tax-deductible donations to make this possible, the guardians and medical personnel who travel with us to see to the safety of the veterans, and especially our honored veterans for their contribution to our way of life.